All right, the question I want to ask today is, should Strymon update the timeline in BigSky? So you've probably seen this pedal on either your own pedal board or at least somebody you know's pedal board. This pedal is extremely popular and for good reason. I remember when the trailer for this pedal first dropped, their little teaser trailer showing the different sounds that you could get. I wanted one immediately so badly. I think I was in my mid-teens. By that point, and it was all I could think about it. I loved the sounds. I was just building my pedal board, getting really heavily into the pedal scene at that point, and I was thrilled on this pedal. Of course, eventually I did get one, and I've bought and sold numerous since. It's always been my go-to reverb pedal. Even again, just recently, I switched back to a pedal board setup from using I was using a Helix, and I wanted to just go back to pedals for a little bit to see what that was like again. And my immediate instinct was I needed a delay and a reverb that could do everything super well. And my immediate thought was, I'm just going to go to another timeline in BigSky because they're easy to use. I know how to use them because I've owned them multiple times. I've used them a ton, and they still to this day sound great. But we recently saw, I believe it was either earlier this year or last year, Strymon just redid their entire, standalone pedal lineup. They kind of basically modernized them, so they now have full MIDI capability. There's additional parameters, presets. They're able to use USB-C now and stuff like that. And it kind of makes me wondering, leaves me wondering, should Strymon give that same treatment to their timeline in BigSky, and what would that even look like? The pedals as is so far are still, like I said, I just bought these again maybe a month ago. They still hold up extremely well. They're still really usable, and they still sound incredible. I don't think the tones really need to be adjusted much. We've seen them kind of branch out into a couple different, single unit pedals with their the Cloudburst reverb and then their new delay they just announced. Those all look and sound great, but I would love to see an updated Strymon timeline BigSky, and of course the Mobius as well. I haven't had much experience with that pedal, so I'm not going to talk about it much. But same concept, just with modulation. Initially, initial kind of features that I would love to see. A while ago, Strymon created their Nixie software, which was cool, but you still need a MIDI to USB cable to use it, basically, which a lot of people already have their MIDI ports are already used in their pedal board by via MIDI controllers, so you'd have to unplug that and everything. I think a USB-C out is kind of the way a lot of companies are going. You're able to edit stuff through USB cables. I would love to see them do that. Some things kind of going back to this pedal after a number of years. The screen, while it's still very usable, building out presets and choosing your parameters, it's just that one little tiny screen you kind of have to scroll through with the scroll wheel. I think they could fit in a bigger digital screen to kind of give you more options. We see stuff like that on the 500 series from Boss. It's not a huge screen, but it's a bit bigger, so you get a little more text on there. You can see a little bit more of what you're doing, as opposed to just a little tiny screen. And of course, some updated algorithms and sounds are always welcome. I'm sure Strymon's always cooking up some kind of new crazy sound that they always seem to impress. obviously the big hit on this pedal being the cloud reverb, one of my personal favorite, if not my favorite reverb ever. But I'm sure they could come up with a bunch of other stuff. You know, I know they do have a couple other big box kind of standalone pedals like the Night Sky and the Volante. But I know those pedals, they sound really great. I haven't spent much time with the Night Sky. I messed around a lot with the Volante, but they didn't seem to stick as well as, I mean, the BigSky and TimeLine and Mobius have really stood the test of time. So I would love to see them kind of expand, you know, not only expand the line a bit more, but also, like I said, modernize these pedals that have stood the test of time for however many years now, whenever the pedals were first released. Bring them kind of into this day and age, while still keeping one of my favorite things about these pedals is they're so easy to use. They're so straightforward. You know, you have 3 presets per bank on the TimeLine and then, or the BigSky, and then 2 presets per bank on the TimeLine, and you just bank through, you know, up and down. They're really easy to code via MIDI, you know, because they're so popular, so many MIDI controllers have stuff built in for the Strymon pedals to begin with. And so they're just easy to use and they sound great. So maybe paring down the size a little bit. I'm sure they could get the size of the box a little smaller, as well, to save a little bit of space, because, you know, we always need that precious pedal board space. We'll get it wherever we can take it. Yeah, I mean, let me know what you guys think. Is that something you think they should do? That's something maybe they could do, or is that something you would want, or are you kind of just happy and content with your BigSky and TimeLine? Another thing that I would love to see them do is I would love them to see them release a line of pedals similar to the 200 series from Boss. So if you've never seen these pedals, these are awesome. They came out after the 500 series, kind of similar to like the DD20, but again, pared down a lot. Yeah, this is the modulation one. I got this a couple weeks ago. It's for all my modulation needs, because I don't use modulation nearly as much, so I didn't bother getting the Mobius. But it's great. It sounds incredible. It's super easy to use, very similar to the Boss. You have a dual tap tempo and memory pedal, or memory switch right here, my apologies. Basically, you just hold it to switch between whether you want to tap tempo, or you have 4 presets and then one main sound, which is whatever you have on the physical unit. Full stereo in and out, as well as the little 1/8" MIDI jack now that Boss is offering too, and USB control. And so I haven't messed with the USB control too much, truthfully. It's been super easy to use just on the fly. But I would love to see Strymon come out with maybe something like this as well, a smaller TimeLine, BigSky, and Mobius as well, where it's more compact. You know, obviously you don't get as many presets just on the unit itself. You can access a lot more presets with this via MIDI, but just on the unit itself, you get, you know, essentially 5 sounds you can use. And for me, for the most part, like I'm not using, you know, taking advantage of all, you know, 200 to 300 presets I get on a TimeLine and BigSky. I could very easily, you know, a lot of people probably could very easily get away with 5 sounds from each of those pedals. And so that's another thing I would absolutely love to see Strymon incorporate and do, where you can kind of get the best of both worlds, where, you know, you get a lot of different delay, reverb, modulation sounds in a much smaller package. Sure, it's a bit more limited, but not everyone needs, you know, for the kind of people in the in-between where they don't want just like an El Capistan that only does tape delay, or a Flint that just does tremolo and reverb, but someone who doesn't need a full TimeLine and BigSky to do all their delays and reverbs. And so, anyways, let me know what you guys think. Again, I want to overstate, these pedals, even still as they are, it was my first instinct to go grab these pedals when I was putting together a pedal board. And I've been gigging with them again for about the last month and a half now. And they're still great. They really, truly are. So for me, if Strymon ever did do an update of the TimeLine and BigSky, or release a new series, I would be out the front door of my nearest Strymon dealer to get one of those. So something I just wanted to kind of bring up and talk about. And so anyways, let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think? Is that something you, like I said, would you love to see that? Do you think it's necessary? Or are you kind of in the camp of, I'm good, I don't need it, I like my Strymon, BigSky, or TimeLine, or whatever delay and reverb you might be using. So anyways, thank you guys again so much for watching another video. Make sure to come back next week for next week's video. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and please be sure to like and subscribe.